The drama surrounding Sophie Cunningham's Whirlwind Week has become the kind of story that defines a new era of women's basketball. A collision of personality, marketing power, and athletic brilliance that can shift how fans and brands see the WNBA. What began as a lighthearted sneaker campaign transformed into a masterclass in narrative control, with Sophie standing at the center like a star who understands that fame, when handled right, can be as powerful as a championship ring. At the start of the week, she was smiling on Good Morning America, a confident athlete basking in the glow of newfound attention. By the end of it, she wasn't just on television. She was the television. Her Adidas commercial dropped like a cultural grenade, filling timelines, trending pages, and sports feeds across the country. The ad wasn't just about shoes, it was about Sophie Cunningham herself, and the unapologetic aura she carries every time she steps in front of a camera. In a crisp electric pink outfit, she radiated a kind of self-assuredness that athletes spend entire careers chasing. Her smirk, her tone, the offhand, "I'm busy." Every frame felt choreographed to cement one message. Sophie has arrived, and she's not asking for permission to shine. But this was more than clever marketing. It was symbolic. Adidas didn't just choose Sophie Cunningham, they built the ad around her. This wasn't a cameo. It wasn't a quick product push with a list of athletes rattling off slogans. This was the Sophie Cunningham Show, a one-woman performance draped in confidence, color, and controversy. Fans couldn't help but notice that her line, "I'm busy," seemed like more than a throwaway phrase. To some, it felt like a message. To the league, to critics, and maybe even to the Indiana Fever themselves. The internet did what it always does. It turned the moment into a storm of speculation, with supporters hailing her boldness and skeptics accusing her of arrogance. The discussion became bigger than the ad. It became a referendum on individuality in women's basketball. The timing of the commercial only fueled the fire. Days earlier, Sophie had hinted on her podcast that she was thinking about her next move, musing about future contracts and mentioning cities that weren't Indiana. Fans immediately wondered if she was teasing a departure or simply leveraging her growing fame to secure a better deal. Either way, she had everyone talking. And when the Adidas spot dropped, polished, playful, perfectly timed, it felt like an exclamation mark on that conversation. Was Sophie signaling independence? Or was Adidas deliberately capitalizing on her newfound stardom to sell sneakers? Either way, it worked. Within hours, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just a trending name, she was the story. Her Adidas campaign dominated the conversation, appearing on ESPN highlights, sports radio, TikTok compilations, and fashion blogs alike. Commentators dissected every detail of her appearance, from the color palette to the confidence in her delivery. Some called it the best piece of marketing the WNBA had seen all year. Others said it crossed the line from boldness into bravado. But no one could deny one thing. Sophie had achieved what few players ever manage. She had turned herself into a brand. For Adidas, it was a calculated risk that paid off. The company recognized what the league often overlooks. Sophie Cunningham is marketable not in spite of her edge, but because of it. Her reputation as a fiery competitor, her viral moments defending Caitlin Clark, and her unpredictable charisma made her the perfect face for a campaign built on individuality. Electric Pink wasn't just a shoe, it was an attitude. The rollout was seamless, dropping right after her media appearances and social buzz, amplifying her image into something unstoppable. In less than a week, she went from standout role player to one of the most recognizable personalities in women's basketball. Yet behind the viral success came tension. Insiders whispered that the Indiana Fever's front office wasn't thrilled about the ad's solo focus. It highlighted what the team had feared for weeks, that Sophie's personal brand was starting to eclipse the franchise. In a league that preaches unity and collective identity, individual star power can be both an asset and a problem. The Fever found themselves in an awkward position, grateful for the visibility but wary of what happens when one player starts commanding more attention than the entire roster. Then came the contract conversation. On her podcast, Sophie's casual mention of wanting a deal that would let her buy a house and feel cozy set off alarm bells. She name-dropped cities like New York and Minneapolis, just enough to stir speculation without making promises. Fans flooded social media, pleading for the Fever to keep her. Others accused her of playing the media game to pressure management. But in truth, Sophie was doing what every modern athlete must, controlling her narrative. She was telling the world that she knew her worth and wouldn't settle for less. Inside the Fever organization, executives faced an uncomfortable question. Could they afford to lose her? Financially, the answer wasn't simple. With Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston likely to command maximum contracts, the salary cap loomed large. But emotionally, the answer was clearer. Sophie wasn't just another player. She had become a movement. Her social following, her sponsorships, her charisma, they brought a new audience to Indiana basketball, one that didn't just care about points per game but about personality and story. Underpaying her risked alienating fans. Overpaying her could strain the team's future flexibility. Either way, every decision from this point forward would have consequences. Meanwhile, within the locker room, the spotlight began to shift the dynamics. Teammates admired Sophie's hustle but couldn't ignore the growing imbalance in attention. Every post she made drew headlines. Every comment became news. The Adidas ad became a mirror reflecting not just her success but the changing nature of the WNBA. Players are no longer content to let teams define them. They're defining themselves. And Sophie, perhaps more than anyone right now, embodies that shift. Her rise also parallels Caitlin Clark's in fascinating ways. Where Caitlin's appeal is built on precision, professionalism, and clean-cut competitiveness, Sophie thrives on edge and emotion. Together, they form a contrasting duo that brings balance and intrigue to the Fever's story. One symbolizes control, the other chaos. One embodies poise, the other unpredictability. And that dynamic, fire and ice, spotlight and shadow, might just be what propels the Fever into a new kind of fame. Yet that balance is fragile. In a world where attention is currency, even allies can become competitors. Sophie's recent moves, her podcast revelations, her brand deals, her viral videos, ensure she remains in the conversation. It's not about overshadowing Caitlin Clark. It's about ensuring her own light never dims. She's playing a different kind of game, one where social media, branding, and self-promotion are as vital as a perfect jump shot. The Adidas campaign was her declaration of independence.